This program today is presented by Elders for Sound Democracy. We are one project under a bigger umbrella of Elders Action Network, a nonpartisan, volunteer-driven community of elders who are taking action to create a better world for future generations and for all of life. We are concerned about what we see happening around us, and we're doing something about it. The role of Elders for Sound Democracy is to protect and strengthen democracy now and for the future. We would like to thank some of the people that have helped promote this program today. All our friends from the Civics Center, Laura and David and Molly, and as well, Deidre and Henderson and her Climate and Democracy Discussion Group, and Dick Almy, who always sends out good messages to all of his contacts. So thank you all, and to all our other partners. We are a community of elders, and we have an important role. This session is about mobilizing our youth. The youth are our grandchildren, our neighbors, all the friends we have, and they are our future. Democracy will be in their hands one day, so we need to start them off on a good footing. Today, we're going to talk to some special guests who will talk about why getting the youth to vote is so important and how we can help do that. And then we also are inviting some of our own elders to explain how they've kind of used a creative way to reach the elders, or I'm sorry, to reach the youth. So we, after that, all those talks, we will have a Q&A. And if you would like to, if a question pops into your head, please put the question in the chat. We will do them after all the speakers. So let's hear from everybody. And I'm going to pass it off to Therese.
Thank you, Lorna, and welcome everyone. It is a real honor and actually a joy to welcome Laura Brill and her team at the Civics Center to our meeting today, because we are in about our 4th or 5th year of working with Laura's organization, and we work with it and support the Civic Center in large part because we have over 130 elders who have participated in supporting the Civic Center over the last few years, in making research phone calls, in writing postcards, writing letters, and reaching out to help high schools know more about how they can run student-run, educator-advised voter registration drives. And today, Laura, who is the founder and the CEO of the Civic Center, is going to be speaking to us from California. She is so inspiring because it was her analysis, which she will tell us about, that helped us to understand a key action she can take and we can help her take to dramatically increase voter participation rates among our youngest citizens. As you probably know, voter participation rates for younger people are much less than they are for people our age, and participation goes up slowly over the years. But Laura says we can make a really big difference fast, and she's proven that is true, and we are helping her to make that difference. So Laura, thank you so much for being here. And let me just say, before you start speaking, I will remind everybody, please, if a question occurs to you, put it in the chat immediately. We want to capture those questions. If it turns out to be redundant or otherwise answered, we'll skip over it, but we don't want to lose those questions. So Laura, over to you. Therese, thank you so much. Lorna, thank you, and to everyone who helped plan this, and to all of you, thank you for being here. I just want to start with a video that probably says it all better than I can. So let's do that.
As a young person, I think it's important to vote because it really impacts our future, especially I don't know, in this day and age with so many changes.
It is great for you to listen to the debates that are out there, to listen to the different parties, and pay attention to the propositions and the laws that are out there, and it's up to vote it all. This is your world. This is your country. This is your space. So you need to use your voice as much as possible.
I decided to host this event because before, a few months ago, I didn't even know what voter registration was. And once I heard about it, I really wanted to make a difference in younger generations. And I feel like this was my opportunity to start something and make an impact at my school.
We get to change policies that are often made by people of older generations. They won't really know the effects of the choices they made.
This is a perfect opportunity for students to be able to contribute, to be able to learn and vote in the future.
I think it's very patriotic to register to vote, and I think that every American citizen should vote.
In general, both sides are kind of divided by social issues right now, rather than I think the class divide is kind of more of an important thing right now.
Thank you so much for your input. You have to use your voice to change those things that you feel are affecting our country as a whole.
What you just saw is a key ingredient to stopping democratic backsliding in the United States. It's up and coming voters, young people connecting to the issues that matter to them, talking it out with their friends in a supportive and educational community, and with a skilled teacher to help them on the way. And high schools are the ideal setting for the 4 million 18-year-olds who come of age every year to help them get access to our democracy. Teens have the leadership capacity and the motivation to be trusted messengers to their peers and in turn to generate real and measurable results. So I'm so grateful, like I said, to Therese, to Clint, to Lorna, to Elders for Sound Democracy for arranging for me to be with you today, and to everybody for being here. Many of you I know are doing critical work to strengthen education and sustainability and to make our elections free and fair. And the one I like to add is for all, because if we're not all showing up and we're not all registered, it's much harder to have a free and fair election. And I just wanted to extend to all of you thanks for your commitment. So I'm Laura Brill. I'm the founder and CEO of the Civics Center, and our mission is to make voter registration part of high school life all across America. And this challenge has become something of an obsession for me. So I'll tell you a little bit of my origin story. This goes back to 2017, and democracy in the United States felt like it was under attack then, as it does today. And I was having all these conversations about, why hadn't young people turned out? So Google said it was because they're apathetic, but my own kids were teens at the time, and they seemed pretty all right to me. And I thought they were kind of awesome, actually. So I got curious about what was really happening. I picked up a copy of the California election code, and there it was that young people can pre-register to vote starting at age 16. And then all they have to do when they turn 18 is go and show up. And this was, I don't think I had really believed in aha moments, but this was an aha moment for me, that the law means students have 2 full years to register while they're still in high school. And it wasn't just California, it was all across the country. Even if it's not 2 years, almost everybody is old enough to register when they're in high school. And especially at the time, was almost nothing in place to take advantage of this opportunity. And I had no idea. So I began by looking more at the laws and the data. And here's what I learned. I'll share a few slides on it.
4 million turn 18 every year across the country. And I'm gonna go back to my deck a sec. So um, so here's our map. The map gives a breakdown that 50% of teens live in states where they can pre-register at least by age 16, and those are the ones in blue. Even in the most age restrictive states, which are the yellow ones, almost everyone's old enough to vote before they graduate from high school. Those yellow ones, you have less than a year in which to register before your first election. And then the green states, you have between a year and 2 years in which to register. So this was a shocker. And most people, even who know a lot about democracy and a lot about education and young people, have no idea that the laws in place today actually facilitate high school voter registration and pre-18 registration in general. The next shocker was that even with all of this opportunity, voter registration rates for the youngest voters are incredibly low. Only 30% of 18-year-olds on average are registered in the midterms. And in contrast, it's about 75% of adults ages 45 and older. And you can see that just a huge gulf between these in the slide here. What this means is that in every election, between 4 and 5 million 18 and 19-year-olds can't vote simply because they're not registered. Imagine blocking 5 million registered voters from casting a ballot, and what an outrageous scandal that would be. But it's just as much of a scandal that we're not getting them registered in the first place, or at least it should be. So this news can be hard for people to take in, and it was hard for me at first. So I want to tackle some of the most frequent questions that I get. The first is that this 4 to 5 million number is about registration. So people ask, what about turnout? So here's the shocker number 3, and that is that registered youth turn out in big elections at very high rates. So this chart is based on census data, and it's showing that for every presidential election going back to 2004, 77% or higher of registered youth turned out in those elections. And it's close to that in midterms in states with competitive elections. So what this suggests is that low turnout is not caused by some inherent flaw among teens. It's really a systems failure. And this point that the barrier is registration more than teens and turnout can also be hard for people to believe and to really take in. And what I hear again and again is, what about motor voter? What about online registration? Don't these systems work for teens? And the answer is almost everywhere, no, at least not well and not for everyone. So here's more proof. We just launched this a few weeks ago, so you're among the first people to see it. The chart is showing voter registration rates by state for 18-year-olds as of this spring, and we have 31 states so far. Only a handful have 18-year-olds coming close to the registration rates of older voters. At the high end of the range, you can see Oregon, Michigan, Colorado, all at 70% or higher for 18-year-old registration, which is incredible. And at the bottom, though, under 25%, Arizona, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania. You can see the spread for yourselves, and it screams, to me at least, that apathy is not the problem, because it cannot be that 18-year-olds in Michigan are 3 times more engaged than their counterparts in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Forget it. Use this slide to tell people teens are not the problem. We also see enormous disparities within states. And who do you guess is impacted the most? It's low-income youth in cities, and that means in large part Black and brown kids. So it's happening because our voter registration systems are dominantly associated with departments of motor vehicles, and more teens are not driving. And that's especially low-income teens in cities who have other options and can't afford all of the costs that go along with driving. So I showed you how 17-year-olds can pre-register, and I love that. But the reality is only 40% of 17-year-olds are getting driver's licenses these days. And that number is really new to most people. So that means it's not happening at the DMV for 60% of 17-year-olds. And then people will ask, well, what about online? That's where everybody, young people are on their phone, they're online. And so what's the problem? The problem, oops, I'm going to go to this slide next. The problem is that most young people can't register online either because most online voter registration systems are limited in that they require a driver's license or a state ID. So 7 states have no online registration at all, and that includes Texas, Montana, New Hampshire. I know we have some Montana and New Hampshire folks on. So you have no online voter registration, so you've got to figure out something else in your states. And all of these states that are the kind of hashtag slanted lines, those are states where you need a driver's license or state ID to use the online voter registration system. And here's one way to look at the impacts, which is together, it's 36, it's 36 states, and that boils down to 72 Senate races and 331 House races. So it's just an enormous electoral impact from this, and of course, and then it's every state and local election within these states that are impacted. So I think I showed this slide before, but it's not just some marginal group of people. It's a full half of 17-year-olds either live in states with no online voter registration or don't have a driver's license and live in a state where you need the driver's license or state ID to use the system. So putting the laws and the technological limitations together with low driving rates, that is what really holds people back and is holding down a lot of these rates, and why we need to come up with other solutions that will actually reach students where they are. And that's why high school is the place to get it done. You can reach everybody, whether they have whether they drive or not, and you reach them in an educational environment. So what we see is young people are really eager to get involved, and that their peers and their teachers and the school environment is what's critical to help them. So let me just skip down. So I want to talk about what we're doing about it and how you can all be involved in taking effective action. We think about different levers or pillars, and we think about synergy, how they all work together to create momentum. And our big focus for 2026 is to use the most impactful levers and create a kind of momentum playbook that can spark transformational change. So first, as I've been saying, we think about schools and creating a tradition of high school voter registration drives. That means it doesn't mean we send volunteers to schools. It means we work to identify students who have the motivation to become leaders, and we help them to become the leaders that they dream of being and to use their skills to motivate their peers and to hold voter registration drives. And for many people, this is the step one to a broader interest in civil and civic engagement and government activity more broadly that can last a lifetime. And once it takes hold in a school, it can become a self-sustaining tradition. So all of the challenges of getting into a school and identifying an educator who can be a liaison and finding the pockets of energy don't have to be repeated year after year. And educators are absolutely critical. I don't have to tell this audience how critical educators are to implementing this and reaching the teens. The second thing we do is we measure early and often. And to me, the measurability of impact is one of the things that makes this so compelling. We're all busy, and the last thing we want to do is to waste time. We all want impact, and the students want it, funders want it, policymakers want it. So we're building a measurement machine that can show current data down to the local level all across the country. And we do this over and over again leading up to elections, so that people can see the impact that they're making in as real time as is possible. And it's not sort of data for just analysis sake, it's data to serve as a motivating tool, and to help people realize that they can make a real impact. And the students and educators, when they see the numbers, just like you did, looking at some of these charts, and I'll show you some more, can be very motivated to take action in their communities. The third thing we do is we build from strength with key partners who are already working with students and educators. There's 27,000 high schools in the country, and there's great organizations that already know them well. And so one I want to highlight is the League, and we can come back and talk about this in Q&A, but the League of Women Voters. Some of you may be members, but we have created a national partnership with them. They're very decentralized, as I think you know, but what the nature of this is that the state and local leagues that want to work in the way we do of training students and educators to run nonpartisan voter registration drives that become part of high school life, they can work with us. We have a toolkit, and so we'll create that relationship on a league by league basis at the state and local level. And it's in its infancy now, but it's really starting to take off, and I think it has the possibility for really transformational change. Other great partners come from introductions, and I know some of you are involved in these organizations. I want to give a shout out to Mary Perry, who introduced us to the California PTA, and I know Ken is on from New Hampshire, where we've worked with the Open Democracy New Hampshire for many years. So creating warm introductions to like-minded state and local organizations really helps us. The fourth pillar, I guess these are a little out of order, but is shining a light and building awareness, because so few people know about this opportunity, and that's what we're doing right now, to help build awareness and help people understand why this is such a positive intervention. So I think I'm going to go into what I'm calling show and share time. I'm going to show you some of the powerful new resources that we launched this year and talk a little bit about how you can use them. So here I showed you this map, but this map is on our homepage. This is when you just go to the civiccenter.org, you see this map with all of the different state laws. And then when you hover over a particular state, I'm picking on Florida here because Florida has a primary coming up, and their voter registration deadline for the primary is July 20th. So let's talk about Florida for a sec. So you hover over the state and you can see the number of people turning 18 every year and the basic rule of how old they need to pre-register. In Florida, even though it's a voter suppression state, in many ways, you can pre-register when you are 16, which is why one of the great things is this is really a nonpartisan voter registration law. It's in Utah, it's in Louisiana, it's in Florida, and so don't let people tell you this is other than about good government, bringing all students in. So when you click on Florida, you can get to a page with a lot of additional resources that are specific to the state. So we repeat the number turning 18 every year. We repeat the age that you can register to vote, and then we show what that means in an actual high school setting. It means that eligible seniors, juniors, and most sophomores are old enough to register. Below that, the arrow is pointing to how you can see more data about Florida, and I'll come back to that. And then this yellow bar, you can see this isn't just data and information. We want you to go and click the button, register to vote, learn how to run a drive, or share the information. And when you click that, it comes up with nice graphics that you can easily post to Blue Sky or Instagram or Facebook. Next, we tell you what the deadlines are that are coming up, both when the election is and when you need to register. We provide access to paper forms to solve this problem that students don't have driver's licenses and state ID. Then a few other resources from trusted partners. And then we provide more details if you click this full registration details button. More on the page is how to help educators get involved. I guess I left this back up for New York, but New York, we have, there's a similar thing for Florida where you can download an educator toolkit, and then you can send this to educators in your life so that they can download their toolkits. And then there's a link for a full list of high school voter registration laws. So just this is New York, and in New York, there's a law that says school boards and governing bodies of private schools are required to have policies and procedures to enable voter registration and pre-registration. Then we have this full list. And this is very important for educators to know about, and students, so that if they do get pushback from their schools, they can say, I'm just doing something that the law says I'm supposed to do in any event. This is really not controversial, and please let us go forward. So we don't get very much pushback, but we're living in very polarized times, and so we like to see things in advance as they're coming up. Okay, remember I said there was a button to take you to the data. So when you when you click that link, you'll get to our data page, which is similar to one of the slides that I showed you in terms of showing state by state rankings. But then you also, if you click on one of the bars there, you can drill down and see what this looks like on a county by county basis. And you can see that pale county down toward the bottom right in Florida, that's Miami-Dade County. So, what we see is typically in urban parts of a state, there's much low and more diverse parts of a state, there's much lower registration rates and more opportunity. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that. It's at the civiccenter.org/data-portal. And even in just a few weeks, with organic traffic, meaning people are, finding us because they know about us already, or they're entering a search term. We've had students pre-register from 24 states because we have these resources available. And what it's so critical is your help in getting the word out to others. So here's what it can look like, again, when you do that. Well, that video always makes me a little bit emotional. And I just want to tell you, we don't send photographers to take these pictures. These are the kids sending us their own photographs and their own pride and togetherness and how they feel about doing this. So if you're still skeptical, because like I said, none of us want to waste our time. Does this really work? We have done 3 different tests of comparing communities that have student-led voter registration drives with those that do not. And in all 3, we were able to show a greater than 6 percentage point net increase in registration rates for the 18-year-olds. And, folks who have been studying voting interventions, people can be very excited about impacts of 1 percentage point, 2 percentage points. This was 6 percentage points, and it was just after one effort, not building up, over time in a community. So I think I am persuaded, and why I do this work is that I believe this can have a truly transformational impact, both on the student leaders and their communities and on democracy itself. we reach everyone. More than 50% of the schools that we work in are Title I schools. And in terms of turnout, the students who've registered using our online portal turned out at 23 percentage points higher than the national average. Let me just come back and talk about some about the issue of awareness, because that's actually, before I get there, before I get there, I want to take a step back. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And I just want to talk about like why we care about any of this. I mean, we're here and you all are here because of a sense of urgency about democratic backsliding and will we have free and fair elections and what can we do? And there's huge attention, when I look at the news, there's huge attention to lawyers, and I'm a lawyer. So I value what lawyers can do in courtrooms, and I have no doubt that pro-democracy lawyers will be ready for whatever the administration may do to interfere with elections. But the readiness of lawyers is really just one part of the equation, and non-lawyers have a critical role to play as well. And that means, to me, the most urgent question is not what are the lawyers going to do? It's what is everybody else going to do? What are we going to do about all of this? And what are we going to do to create the conditions for free and fair elections? That's what keeps me up at night and what all these pretty slides and charts are about. It's because free and fair elections and democracy itself depends upon an energized and informed electorate understanding that they have the right to vote, what voting means, why it's important, what the peaceful transfer of power has meant to this country over generations. And so that's the work for all of us. And most people think of non-voters and they think of someone who's made a decision that they don't want to bother. And what if I've persuaded you of nothing else today, what I believe is that when it comes to teens, it's really the adults who haven't bothered. It's the adults who haven't helped to explain to students why this matters and how policy impacts their lives and what kind of power they have. So anyway, that's really what I hope we'll think about today. And what I would love to do is to help you all, if you're willing to stick with me and talk about this awareness piece a little bit. So I'm just going to go back and share again so you can get a sense of what one of our biggest challenges is. So this is Turning Point USA. This is their Instagram, the top of their Instagram page. So you'll see they have 7.1 million followers. And this is us. I think as of today, it's actually at 7,900 and something. So we moved a little since the slide was created, but this is a differential of about 900 to 1 in terms of ability to reach an audience. And so what I want you to do is if you have your phones handy, I'm guessing that a lot of you are Substack readers. So if you have your phones handy, will you come with me on a journey to share, to see what you can do on Substack and how you can help. So if you already have your phone, I'm going to give you 20 seconds on the clock. And if you already have your phone, you can use that time to write down 2 things that I mentioned today that you were interested in and didn't know before, and maybe 2 people who you would want to share the information with. So I'm going to give you 5 more seconds, and then we're going to open up our Substack apps, and I'm going to guide you through this process. You ready? Okay, got your phone? Okay, so in your Substack app, there's a search bar, and I want you to type in the Civic Center in the search bar with all one word, okay? And Civic Center is plural. So you should that should bring you to a page that shows our information. And if you scroll down, you will see this big state challenge post. You getting there? Anybody see that? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so at that, so click on that. You can see, you could do it with any one of our posts. You can just click on the post and it will bring it up. So if you click on the big state challenge graphic, this was a post we did about comparing registration rates for 18-year-olds in all of the biggest states, New York, Texas, California, Florida. And so then you can, if you haven't ever shared or restacked on Substack, you can see this little, the red arrow on this third slide is pointing to a little emblem that looks like a recycling symbol down here. It's where it says the number 4. That's how many people have restacked this already. And if you click that little emblem, you'll get the option to restack with a note or just to restack. If you just restack, you don't need to write a note. It'll just send this to people who you're connected with. But if you restack with a note, you can put your own little commentary on it about why this is important. So this helps us a lot because every time we're restacked, we're reaching your people directly, and it also kind of feeds into the algorithm on Substack that boosts us and lets Substack know that we're interested. And so, if you could, this was a really important report we did about that in all 5 of these states, registration rates for 18-year-olds are incredibly low, and you can see 10 people liked it, 3 people commented, 4 people reshared it. And so it really makes a huge difference when people subscribe to us and share our information. So I think with that, what I would love to do, and I can stay on a little bit at the end and we can talk about other ways to share the information and who you can get it to. And my goal for today, if you're not already a Substack subscriber to us, is that you'll go ahead and go see Substack and the Civic Center. And I would love it. We could get 25 new subscribers on Substack. That would help us a great deal in terms of our reach and being able to keep connecting with you. And I want now to turn it over to Molly Ford, who is our Director of Education and Organizing. And Molly has really been our anchor for many of the state and local partnerships that have gotten us this far. And many of you have met her already in that context. And Molly, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thank you. Some familiar faces, some familiar names on the call. I'm really excited to get to chat with you all today, new and familiar faces alike. So as Laura mentioned, Molly Ford, Director of Education and Organizing. I've been with the Civic Center now for 4+ years. I am deeply motivated by this idea that voter registration is, for young people, a gateway to developing their full civic selves. I believe that when we reach young people at this formative time of their lives, and both for student drive leaders, provide them with a meaningful opportunity to organize their peers, make an impact on their school community, and see the number of people that they can engage in our democracy, that becomes a meaningful learning opportunity for them to see their power, see how they can take these skills that they've learned and replicate them elsewhere on issues as they grow. And it's also a way for us to transform the cultures of classrooms and schools, to make voter registration just a natural part of life, something that students look forward to, that they know they will participate in. I was actually just giving a presentation yesterday to a group of sophomores and juniors who had never run drives before. But a sophomore mentioned that she knew some seniors who'd run a drive last year. And she was like, "Oh, they asked me if I would register, but I wasn't old enough. But I know now that I can participate that, and I've now seen friends and older classmates run a drive. I know that I can do that too." So I think what I'd like to really share my thanks on this call is the role that folks have played in connecting the Civic Center with other organizations and entities that have helped us expand our reach over time. The Civic Center places a great emphasis on partnerships. I'll even kind of touch on some of the questions that were in the chat. Vote Writers is has been an incredible partner to us. Laura's talked about how voter ID laws and registration ID laws play a really pivotal role in youth access to registering to vote. And Vote Writers is doing incredible work educating folks on what IDs they need to participate in these processes. And we've even included a bunch of their materials and resources in our Democracy in a Box toolkits so that when a student registers through a drive, they know what IDs they need to bring to the polls when needed. The League of Women Voters, this new partnership, I dropped in the chat the press release regarding the announcement of the partnership, as well as the toolkit that we co-developed with the League to illustrate what it takes to develop student leaders, cultivate young people who will then educate their peers and classmates and engage them in running a drive. So we have lots of partners that have helped us create resources and educational materials, both for students, educators, and volunteers like League members on what it takes to run a drive. But I also want to give a special shout out to some of the partners that have helped us not just develop our kind of materials and educational approach, but also connected us with schools and student and educator facing groups. Mary Perry, you've been an incredible support to us in the past year. I'll give you like a little brief story. I know you're going to speak in a minute, so I won't give the whole story away. But I will say, from my perspective as from the Civic Center, it's been really incredible to see you help find opportunities for us to present to students and other PTSA members. We started off with a virtual workshop at the beginning of the year that was just kind of made available to students up and down the state to come and learn about what it takes to run a voter registration drive. And even from that workshop recording, we've had different districts within the PTSA reach out to us to come and speak. The Washington State PTSA somehow got their hands on that recording and has invited us to come and explore doing similar work. These types of awareness raising moments give us the opportunity. We never really know where they're going to go, but they give us this opportunity to spread the word and raise awareness of just the opportunity that is presented by creating these student-led voter registration moments. When we came and presented at the annual conference for the California State PTA earlier this year, I think the event itself was like mid-May, early May. It was only days before California's voter registration deadline for the spring primary, but that didn't matter. People who came to our table were so jazzed and excited and almost more enthusiastic that there was an immediate deadline that we needed to take action on, that we walked away with nearly a dozen different school-based contacts that were interested in connecting us to educators at their high schools, sharing materials and resources around how to register to vote in time for the primary election, with an eye towards building towards a bigger, more inclusive and well-produced drive in the fall. So it's been incredible to just see this kind of work grow from a seed of just, you know what, we're aligned. We know philosophically that we want to empower young people. How can we get together and spread the word about this opportunity? And we've been able to see it grow from there. I can't say enough about our work in New Hampshire. Ken, thank you so much. I know you're very familiar with it, but that's a Open Democracy New Hampshire is another one of our key partners that has kind of served as a state and local organizer. This Open Democracy New Hampshire is kind of a pro-democracy network of volunteers that are spread throughout the state, and their organizational leadership really saw an opportunity to expand their role in organizing young people. And so we've been able to collaborate with them, sharing our materials, resources, and training, and their knowledge and relationships within their state landscape. And together, we've been able to really systematically increase the number of not just voter registration drives, but as we mentioned in the chat, these drives have become a part of school structure and culture. A number of schools are now planning to make drives a part of their kind of cap and gown pickup days, or these other annual events that are held on campus that target and aim towards eligible seniors. It's been really a joy to be a part of that work as well. And it just goes to show that whether an organization is able to help us spread the word and raise awareness and kind of see where new relationships can take us, that can be incredibly helpful. We've also seen work with organizations that have deep relationships within a community, been able to help connect us individually to high schools and student leaders who are willing to take this work on. I think
maybe we should we turn it over to Mary or Clint to give some?
Absolutely. Mary.
This is Therese. I'm going to give us a little bit of a segue. Note that I'm part of Elders for Sound Democracy. We've been privileged, over 150 of us have been privileged to support and work in different ways with the Civics Center over the last few years. And the last part of our meeting today and the total meeting that we'll be having, which will be a follow-up on August 10th, is to support our elders to get working and to use some of the creativity that our pioneers have already demonstrated. I will mention to everyone, I haven't seen in the chat, and I appreciate that Laura and David and Molly have been answering some questions, especially factual ones that are in the chat already. But I want to mention, haven't seen this question, the Civics Center supports for free every high school student across the country who would like to get involved in learning how to run a voter registration drive in their school, bar none. They may work themselves directly with, and I know the Civic Center does outreach to schools in less prosperous districts, but they will work with students from private schools. They work with everybody. And I think one of the most fun things for those of us who aren't intimately involved is to know that if the students also can give the name of an educator who's sponsoring them and the date of a drive, then the Civic Center will send them, no matter where they are, for free, what they call democracy in a box. I'm sure there are some really fundamentally important things, but what sticks in my mind are the fun things like candy and lanyards and and a lot of the access to the resources and graphics they told us about. But I want to put in a pitch as you listen to the next three speakers to think about, if you're an elder who hasn't yet been involved or been involved a bit, think about what you might do. And I know today a lot of the question is going to be, a lot of the focus will be on, do you know somebody who knows somebody in a school or in some schools? I see Deidre Henderson has already said, I know some people. And Molly, you better, Deidre is a powerhouse. So we're sure get together with her. And she's thinking about connecting you with a number of student groups associated with the Citizens Climate Lobby. I raise that up because it's wonderful to be able to talk about it, but also because that kind of systematic thing is very powerful, as is finding one school. Very powerful. And we're going to hear from Mary Perry from California, who's going to talk about what she did and how she got to be an activist. Why are you doing this?
I thought about that question, Therese, and realized that I grew up with political discussions at the dinner table. Politics and being engaged and voting were just part of the fabric of my upbringing. And it's been an eye-opener for me to realize how many people didn't have that experience and how many of our young people have even less of it, perhaps, than us old folks did. But personally and professionally, what ended up happening for me is really focusing that political interest and my interest in schools. And so what that's meant is that I've really looked at the places where there's a nexus between education and political issues, policy, state governance, that kind of thing. That, along with having been a school board member, which was an adventure all by itself, in the last 15 years, much of that work for me has really involved a leadership role at the California State PTA. And I see people from all over the country. Every single state has a PTA, by the way. And it is a national organization devoted to advocacy. It also is a national organization devoted to civic engagement, along with all the fundraising and all the other things we think of as being part of PTA. So at the same time, I've become very involved in environmental issues. And that was the first place where I really tried to combine my work with PTA and with that interest. And Elders Climate Action has been amazingly helpful in helping me find a space and a voice and make a difference and make those connections. And that's where I learned about the Civics Center. Thank you, Therese. And it was really natural to connect them with what I was doing with the California PTA. And so about a year ago, one of the things our PTA, state PTA has is this official allied agency relationship. And that's when Molly referred to the things that we've done at the state level. It's because of that allied agency. And it's been a wonderful thing for our members. I heard from so many people at our convention about how excited they were to be able to find out more about the Civics Center. So the thing with PTA, I tend to work at the state level. So much of what this is about is kids and educators and community members at the local school. So my focus has been on the issue of awareness. And I'm also really, really excited about the new data that just came out about California counties, because I'm going to get to use that to really activate our regional and local leaders and shine a light on information that will help motivate them. And so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And it's interesting to contemplate the fact that California, for example, has laws around voter registration being part of civics education in the high schools, with 2 weeks in April and 2 weeks in September. And we know it doesn't happen. So it's the kind of thing that community advocates can get involved with. I also met a woman, happened to go to dinner with a friend. Turns out she's with the League of Women Voters in Santa Clara County, and they're starting to do voter registration at the high schools. So I'm going to have another conversation with her as well. It's all about the connections, the opportunities, and figuring out how to leverage what you have and who you know, with a focus on trying to help kids see why it matters to be politically active and to vote.
Thank you, Mary. That's perfect. Sue Sorensen, many of our Elders Action Network people know, and we know that she lives in Truckee, California, up near Lake Tahoe, I think, and up in the mountains. And Sue, would you tell us a little bit about how your activist history and also what you did, because you've a demonstration of what it means to have a high school develop a tradition and make a difference. You're muted. You're still muted.
All right, there we go. So I, by way of introduction, was part of the founding group of Elders Action Network, Elders Climate Action, and now Elders for Sound Democracy. So I've been active in this movement of elders from its beginnings in 2014. And I can say that in that time, the Civics Center has become a partner that we really respect and value. As Therese said, John and I live in Truckee, California, a town of about 20,000 in the Sierra Nevada near Lake Tahoe. And when our Elders for Sound Democracy team first learned about the Civic Center's high school voter registration program in 2024, Jeff Johnson, a very active member of our team who lives in neighboring Nevada City, decided to speak to school boards in our region about the importance of incorporating voter registration drives in high schools, and how our vetted Civic Center partner was ready to facilitate and support a student-led voter registration program. When Jeff spoke to our Truckee School Board, I followed with a presentation on the specifics of the Civic Center program, the free student orientations and trainings on how to run a voter registration drive, and the free materials provided in their Democracy in a Box toolkit. We left knowing that we had the board's buy-in for the program. By that same time, our Truckee Citizens Climate Lobby chapter, led by Deirdre Henderson, who we mentioned earlier, had established the Tahoe Youth Action Team as a Truckee High student club. And the club's formal charter is to empower students to engage in civic action, community service, and voter registration. When I told Deirdre about the Civic Center program, she presented it to the club as an opportunity for action. It was an ideal match for their goals, so they signed up with the Civic Center program and ran with it, with the full support of the school administration. The team has now held 3 registration drives, and they have registered or pre-registered over 150 students so far. A voter registration drive is now a standard part of their yearly activities. This year, the club didn't have a spring drive because so many students have already been registered, and instead it focused on providing information for college-bound seniors on how to vote when away at school, which I think is a really valuable addition to the program. The club's efforts and successes have been written up twice by our local newspaper, and the club has even received invitations to do voter registration at community events. Bottom line, the Civics Center student voter registration program is thriving in Truckee. We'll include one of the Sierra Sun articles in our follow-up email. I think you'll find it to be a very inspirational read. And a suggestion I would have for finding a contact in your local high school, if you choose to reach out, is to check the school's website for student clubs. Truckee High lists 32 clubs along with the faculty sponsor for each, which would be a rich resource when looking for contacts for this program. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I hope that all our audience here is inspired and actually gets with us and starts helping to connect high schools with the voter registration drive resources. Our last key speaker today is really a duo, Clint Wilkins and Steve Held. They are going to tell you about a wonderful project they are just beginning. I call it the Steve and Clint Montana Project. Over to you.
Thanks, Therese. I'm Clint Wilkins. I've been a member of the Elders for Sound Democracy team for quite some time. And one of the things that I've learned over my work with Elders Action Network is that we're, as elders, pretty good at bringing people together and forming teams. And we're also learning that we can be pretty good at creating some new ideas, incubating new ideas. And that's exactly what we're about to do in Montana. The key to our effort will be to increase voter registration among 18-year-olds is teamwork. And that's where my buddy Steve Held comes in. I, as a retired school principal, know my way around schools and what motivates teenagers. Steve knows his way around the state. Steve is a rancher, a storyteller, an actor, a parent, and a connector. So between Steve and me, we think we formed a pretty good team that can set out to reach some key goals in Montana. Steve, you're on.
And you're muted. Oh, well, maybe you're not.
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Hey, thanks, Clint. It's been just great. I want to introduce my friends Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, who I brought here today. None of these animals were harmed by me for the making of this film. So my first elective office was in high school, class clown. I need to encourage a sense of humor in this because we've got a lot of work to do, and if we spend our time falling apart over words, we're not going to get this done. And that's a great thing that the current administration does. It gets us off track with that. I was the youngest member of the Screen Actors Guild National Board of Directors at 28. And Laura, I just want to thank you so much for your leadership and for stepping out like you have in California with 300,000 youth. As you know, my daughter is Ricky Held of the Held v. Montana Youth Climate Lawsuit, and my mom was a brilliant person, which all goes to inform me that intelligence skips a generation. I agree with you. The young people are incredible. They are the leaders, and we don't need to be afraid of that at all. That time of, oh, the kids today and all that is gone. George Washington did most of the great things in his life by the time he was 22. We have to embrace abundance. rather than live in fear. Our Montana project. So it's so cool you listed these numbers, Laura, because that's what I've got today too. And so many of them match up in a beautiful way. So Montana, one of the reasons this is a perfect place to have this experiment, to create this petri dish, is because we only have 1.1 million people in the whole state of Montana. Each year in Montana, 14,000 Montanans turn 18. It only takes, right now, the way Montana does it, 14,000 signatures to get an independent on the statewide ballot, like for Senate or for the governor, that kind of thing. So each graduating class, essentially, each group of 18-year-olds could have a massive effect on Montana politics, and if they got a senator elected, on national politics, which affects the entire world. The group of people turning 18 between 2026 and 2028, the next presidential election, could literally influence what happens in the world. That's why this is an easier way to approach it. We have over 150 schools. As Therese mentioned, there are over 150 members of ESA engaged, helping young people, getting them inspired and moving them forward. It seems like a perfect match. We've selected some rural schools to start this off because they're going to be easier to approach. And granted, that's going to be a different demographic than you find in the big schools, but there will be more acceptance in by the whole state if small schools are invited in instead of going to Big Sky or Bozeman or the places that most of you would have heard of. We're talking about going to Dell and Poplar on the reservation, or Browning, or Ekalaka, or Alzada, or all of these other schools. 60% of 18-year-olds already register in Montana. It's on the higher end. We do pretty well because we encourage registration in the schools. My kids both got to register, they're twins, when they were in their senior civics classes. Our goal is to increase that by 16%. So we might be able to one-up you, Laura. I don't know. We could have a race. We have a lot easier job than you do. A few thousand people, we can whip your whole percentage. There are 8 Indian reservations in Montana, 8. And we would like to have 2 participate in the first 8 schools we get involved in our drive, and that's for the 2026 round. Your Substacks, you mentioned Substacks, and I love that. I'm going to go to the Civic Center. I've saved the chat, and look up your state challenge because it's perfect. It's right down the pipe of what we're doing. Our Substack for this event is Last Best Voice. Montana is known as a place of the last best place, and so ours is Last Best Voice. I encourage you to go on there and support us as you support Laura and the rest of us. So, Laura, I want to say, though, that I have to admit it, you've probably figured it out on your own, that I'm kind of weird. I'm a little strange. I like lawyers. I know that's weird, but they tend to be smart and funny. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I played one on TV. And Laura, on 2/27/27, that's the last Saturday in February coming up, the next last Saturday in February we're going to have a gathering at the ranch, and I want to invite you to come if you got a chance. It's a great chance to go to Montana, which is a really cool place right now because of Yellowstone and all that stuff. The prompt for that event is Montana, the first sustainable state. What does that mean to you? And that's what I'm asking everybody. And it's a wide variety of people, from agriculture to energy to education, a wide variety. I would love it if anybody here watching would put in the chat what being a sustainable state means to you. So I've got some great initiatives that I'm planning to do, and I'm going to pretend these next 2 were my own, but I just stole them from you a minute ago. To get pre-registration passed in Montana at 16. I think that's brilliant, and I'm going to talk to the folks I know in the legislature and get some movement on that. And to start online registration. That's huge. With the reservations and with so many remote, isolated kids, they don't even know about this. They can't get registered. Out of the 10 kids that lived on the river, up the river from us all the way to Wyoming, 10 kids were there when my kids were in school. Only 2 of them were going to the public schools. The other 8 were being homeschooled or being taken to other towns like I did my kids. I've spoken before to the League of Women Voters in Billings and other places all around Montana, to NOW, National Organization of Women, that's turning 60 on August 26th. So everybody in this chat, remember, August 26th birthday for National Organization, and Steve held August 26th birthday. So come on, people. Face it. Women and elders have been saving our species' asses since the beginning of time. Jump on board. Let's go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Just one thing. I ran a few numbers when Laura was speaking. There are 4 million plus youth that turn 18 every year. There are 14,000 in Montana. That's less than or around 0.3 hundredths of a percent, or 0.3% of all the kids getting to voting age. I think you can see that this very large state in terms of land mass, but small in population, may have an outsized influence in how we go about voter registration. So stay tuned.
You know, on that point, if I may, Therese, I don't want to butt in, except I want the last word over Clint. Let's argue about it. So Montana elected in 1917, Montana elected the first woman to the U.S. Congress, Jeanette Rankin. We haven't elected another one since. Come on.
We're depending on you, Steve. Totally depending on you. You'll do it. I want to pause for just a moment. Of course, we've had wonderful speakers. I want to remind all of our ESD folks, you can come and learn and enjoy the leaders from ESD who've been talking with us here this afternoon on August 10th when we get together in person. And because we're pretty late, and because I know a lot of the questions that have been put in the chat have been answered, I want to say, rather than Q&A, and I apologize, what we'll do is make sure the questions get answered after the fact, and we'll send those answers out in the email that follows up, because we're going to hear from Laura Brill, what she has to say to us as we finish up, and then at the very end, Lorna and I are going to remind you of all the opportunities we have to help support democracy over the next month. So Laura and Molly, thank you. David, who's been helping behind the scenes, thank you. This is the beginning. Good luck as time goes on, and we're certainly continuing to work. Laura,
Therese, I just want to say thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing this together, and for, like you said at the beginning, you have been a champion for us since we first met, and since you met Vicki Shapiro, who was served on my advisory board and is still an advisory board member, and what the relationships that we have made with you and the others in this organization have been really meaningful to us. And just as Sue was speaking, and Mary and Clint and Steve, I mean, my heart was overflowing with gratitude for feeling how you all have picked this up and made it your own, and then helped to make it the school's own in all of the places where you are locally. And so, at this time where really we're so challenged with negativity, number one, and just fractional demands on our attention, and insistence that sort of technology is the only, I love technology. This is great that we're all on Zoom being together, but so much of the answer for our democracy is getting to know one another and building trusted relationships. And that's scalable and exciting and motivating. And you all have just done so much to motivate me today. And I really want to thank you for for coming, for embracing this work, and for all you've done with your own creativity and networks to make this real. I'm so looking forward to continuing, and I think we can build something really beautiful both for 2026, 2028, and the beauty of this is that it's lasting. It's not a one vote, one election, get it done. It's to build community. So I just really want to say thank you, David, who's been in the background answering questions, works on our team. He's my assistant. Anything you need, just go to him, and he'll help get it get you to the right person internally. So thank you, David, for coming. Thanks to Molly, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and that the next step of this conversation will be super fruitful as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And let me just say, Lorna and I are going to go into some announcements. Then we'll finish off with a short reprieve of our music. And I want to invite our at least David from the Civics Center, if you have time, to join us afterwards, so we tie up our loose ends and get all the materials out to everyone. So I'm going to start by, I think, sharing the slides that Lorna and I are going to speak to. And these are slides that we will share with you, with links you will have. Yes. Okay, so you'll recognize this when you see it. This is the place to register for that meeting on August 10th, where you can talk with those of us who are getting ready to work in Montana and work in other places. I want to also mention that some of our members like to write letters, and the Vote Forward at the moment has a campaign to write letters to newly registered young voters in PA, people who've registered but haven't voted, and we'd like to see that they all do vote. If writing letters is what you like to do, then come to this link, and we at ESD will help you do that. Over to you, Lorna.
Yes, and there are other opportunities as well. Next week on Wednesday, we'll be having our Conversation for Democracy. This group, as you can tell, has lots of ideas and lots of things to say, and we love to have a conversation with everyone who cares so much about democracy. So we will continue this conversation next week, same time, same place, with our Conversations for Democracy. Next slide, please. In August, we're going to have another community meeting. We're going to be celebrating Standing Up for Democracy. Many of our elders are doing a fantastic job doing all kinds of things, whether they're protesting, whether they're dealing with ICE right now, or if they're working on detention centers, or they're writing postcards. Whatever they do, we want to celebrate all the actions that elders are doing. And we're going to highlight a couple of elders who are also doing fantastic things. And that will be on August 19th. You can sign up on our calendar. Next slide. We have a voting action team who is working on getting out the vote in every way we can. You can join them in learning how to do that, giving us ideas, all kinds of things. And that is the next meeting for that. We hold one every month. The next one is July 28th. You're all welcome to come and join us for that. Next slide. Defend Democracy Action Team is a team that looks at all that's happening in our country, investigates, researches, and lets us know when we really need to take action now by sending out action alerts. They are very action-oriented. If you want to take part in that group, you can contact Ken or sign up on the calendar as well. But Ken is our contact point. And since you will get all these slides, don't worry about all the dates and times or contacts. You'll have them in a follow-up. Next slide. So many issues are local issues, as we've talked about. So we do have some state chapters working on their own issues for democracy in their state. We have state chapters in California, Washington, Arizona, Wisconsin, and joining the group is Pennsylvania. So welcome to Pennsylvania for a new state chapter. We're looking forward to any more that want to join the state chapters. You can contact John if you're interested in that. And the next slide is postcarding for democracy. We are working with the Center for Common Ground, who is highlighting and targeting the states in the South who are experiencing the gerrymandering. She has picked out several states and areas that are important to get out to vote. She is in Center for Common Ground is very good at getting the word out and are effective in their campaigns. So we have a form if you would like to sign up. Our first 1,000 postcards are in the mail now, but we've signed up for 3,000, so we have 2,000 more to give out. So that is something you can do today, sign up for that postcarding opportunity. There's also the opportunity with the Environmental Voter Project. They are also doing postcards, and if you would like to sign up for that, we will give you a contact for that as well. So lots and lots of actions and things that you can do, and we hope that you join us for all these opportunities. We'll look forward to seeing you again. I want to thank everyone for coming today. This has been so instructive and motivating and exciting. We're going to reach those youth. I know it, and it's going to be a very powerful opportunity for us. Thank you so much for showing up today, and we're going to send you out with that music that we started with, so you can go back to your high school years and see that again. So thank you very much for showing up. We'll see you hopefully next time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.